And we are live.
All right. Hey, everyone, and welcome to the forum where science comes to socialize. Thank you for joining us for this very special edition of our show as part of our third virtual conference, Next Gen Med Precision Medicine. My name's Aubrey, and if you've been watching our other event sessions today, you might recognize me as the one who made a total fool of herself interviewing Elisa Klinger during our forum spotlight back on digital health.
It's all right, Aubrey. You were just channeling your inner millennial, and there's no shame in that.
Really?
Okay, maybe there's a little bit of shame, but
Wow, those two very supportive individuals over there are Cleo and Daniela, my co-hosts here today. And for the record, Cleo, I was channeling my inner Samantha Bee.
I mean, I personally would have gone with John Oliver, but I guess Samantha Bee's cool too.
Well, thank you for your approval.
You're welcome.
For the last session of Next Gen Med today, we're going to be putting a policy spin on this whole precision medicine conversation.
But before we get started, don't forget that you can tweet us your thoughts on today's episode at ISGP Forum. But since we're recording the show live today,
Don't remind me.
Cleo's favorite, you can also comment on this video or post at facebook.com/ISGP Forum. We'll try to keep an eye on comments as we record, but if we don't get to them now, we'll definitely get to them later.
And for anyone who's just tuning in, we'll start with a super brief definition of precision medicine so that everyone's on the same page here.
Sounds good. Okay, so precision medicine is basically an emerging medical strategy that uses a patient's individual genetic traits, even information about their personal environment or lifestyle, to tailor disease treatment and prevention strategies for them. In our previous sessions today, we learned a bit about how precision medicine can be applied to understanding disease predisposition, diagnosing certain diseases, and just recently, treating diseases like cancer.
So, when did this whole precision medicine idea actually come about? Well, the first thing to understand is that personalized medicine and precision medicine often get conflated. And depending on who you talk to, these two terms don't always mean the same thing. While precision medicine can lead the way for more personalized medical care based on someone's individual genome, some people worry that using the term personalized is an overexaggeration of the nature and promise of these precision medicine treatments.
But for the sake of this conversation, we're going to kind of use them interchangeably. So all apologies if you're in this field and see that as sacrilegious. The term personalized medicine first came onto this in 1999, but the ideas and goals behind this sort of medical strategy actually have been around since the early 1960s. From what I've read and understood, the mapping of the human genome at the turn of the 21st century really put precision medicine into motion, transforming it from an idealistic, idea into something used in practice. And one way precision medicine is being applied to determining ideal drug dosages for patients.
So take the drug warfarin, for instance. Warfarin is usually used as a blood thinner, but it's kind of infamous in the medical world for having a pretty narrow therapeutic range. It's like the Goldilocks of medicine. Too much, and the patient is at an increased risk of bleeding. Too little, and the patient's prone to clotting. And of course, this varies pretty significantly from patient to patient. Traditionally, doctors more or less had to play a sophisticated guessing game to get this one right, because very little about the patient's condition could inform which direction the situation would actually go in.
That is until precision medicine came along, which actually can help explain this highly variable patient response. It turns out that there are 3 genes, along with a patient's age and weight, that can explain a lot of this variability in warfarin-based therapy.
And because of this advancement, which happened around 2009, there are now genetic tests that enable clinicians to more accurately prescribe and use warfarin. So now that we have some level of understanding and appreciation for precision medicine, you know I'm going to nudge us towards my favorite subject, with an added bonus of a very influential person.
What?
Policy. You guys know I'm always talking about policy.
Well, yeah, I figured that, but I don't know, influential person? What?
Cleo, you went to college with me for 4 years. You know how much love I have for Obama. So you see, during his administration in 2015, President Obama created the Precision Medicine Initiative, PMI, with the aim of, quote, enabling a new era of medicine through research, technology, and policies that empower patients, researchers, and providers to work together towards the development of individualized care, end quote.
PMI was established with the recognition that to actually apply a person's individual genome and environment and lifestyle into tailored medicine, we need to incorporate many types of data, ranging from metabolomics to a patient's living environment. In short, we need a lot of data, and we need to store it, we need to analyze it, and we need to apply it. PMI is the initiative trying to make all of that happen.
Nowadays, agencies across the federal government are working together to support President Obama's vision. This is an all-of-government effort, leveraging the unique expertise and history of each relevant agency to carry forward the initiative's mission. Currently, there are 3 agencies directly involved: the Department of Health and Human Services, HHS, the Department of Veteran Affairs, and the Department of Defense, the DoD.
And the HHS has several programs specifically for PMI, right?
Exactly, especially within the National Institutes of Health. The biggest piece of the PMI puzzle is actually happening at the NIH, but we'll save that for a longer discussion later.
Well, in the meantime, there's also a second PMI effort housed in the NIH's National Cancer Institute. This program specifically seeks to expand cancer-specific precision medicine clinical trials, examine mechanisms of drug resistance in cancer patients, develop new cancer preclinical models, and this is a flower one, establish a national cancer knowledge system. That sounds awesome.
And there are still a few other PMI programs happening within HHS, but we simply just don't have time to get into all of them today.
But that's an extensive amount of effort for one agency, though.
Yeah, I mean, it is a big agency, so.
Fair point. But what I'm super curious about here is what roles the Department of Veterans Affairs and DoD play. Of all the US government agencies out there, these are not the first 2 I'd have guessed to have a part in the PMI story.
I actually had the same exact reaction when I was reading through this stuff. So these 2 collaborate on expanding a program called the Million Veteran Program, or the MVP.
Best acronym ever.
I thought you'd like that one. They expand this program through enrollment of veteran volunteers.
And this is super weird because this is about to be one of those random things that I was actually told about like a week ago from a friend. That's of course relevant now because life and,
I know the exact feeling. Fill us in.
Okay. So the NVP is a national voluntary research program funded entirely by the Department of Veterans Affairs Office of Research and Development. The goal of MVP is to partner with veterans receiving care from the VA healthcare system to study how genes affect health. After collecting blood samples and health data from 1 million veterans, researchers will study diseases like diabetes and cancer and illnesses particularly common in the military, like post-traumatic stress disorder.
That makes sense.
Yeah. So should we be going over all the governance structures associated with PMI before moving on to how it's applied?
Well, we could, but it would involve a lot of listing out specific guidelines. I mean, I don't mind because you both know how much I love lists. Actually, my flatmates often call me the Jane Villanueva of London.
Wait, who?
Jane. Jane from Jane the Virgin. God, if you don't watch this show, you're in for the best Netflix recommendation. There's even 4 seasons, so you can just keep watching it. Although I just finished, so I'm feeling a bit lonely with that.
Aubrey, I have to agree with Daniela here. You need to watch it if you haven't.
I'll probably stick to the royals. Thank you very much. But we can actually pass over some of that governance stuff for the moment because it's going to become relevant again later in the episode.
Fair enough, fair enough. Plus, now seems as good a time as any to discuss the FDA's involvement in all of this. While they may not be one of the 3 key agencies affiliated with the PMI, they have a huge role in precision medicine application. So I, for one, don't really mind lumping them in with HHS, DoD, and the VA in this context. Cleo, do you want to do us the honors?
Sure. Okay, so the FDA's involvement in precision medicine actually predates PMI itself. For instance, in 2012, the FDA approved a new drug-based therapy for a very disease that impairs your lungs and digestive system called cystic fibrosis, or CF. The drug, Kalydeco, is the very first drug to actually address the underlying causes, not just symptoms of CF. There are literally hundreds of genetic mutations that can cause this disease, but thanks to precision medicine, researchers were able to locate one of them. And while we have the researchers to thank for such a life-changing drug, the FDA actually plays a very important role in helping and usher in these types of new products.
Right. The FDA's ultimate role is to ensure safety and effectiveness of these products. Basically, a drug becomes FDA approved if its perceived benefits outweigh known or potential risks. And with an estimated 2.2 million adverse drug reactions each year in the US, there's some obvious room for improvement here.
Which is where precision medicine steps in again as an enticing solution. By further exploring why some patients react in certain ways to certain drugs while others don't, researchers could make drugs so much safer.
Long story short, the FDA has thoroughly recognized that we have arrived at the age of personalized medicine, and the agency is figuring out how to adapt accordingly. And speaking of the age of personalized medicine, now seems like a good time to talk about the iteration of PMI making its way into society today.
Specifically, we're talking about the NIH's All of Us research program. And this is no small side project, but in fact, the key element of the Precision Medicine Initiative.
When PMI launched in 2016, $130 million was allocated to NIH to construct a large scale national research group. This research group, or cohort, is working toward recruiting 1 million or more US participants who would agree to supply comprehensive information about their health, habits, and what it's like where they live. The idea, of course, is that if enough people participate in this endeavor, researchers can identify patterns and learn more about what affects people's health. So this is the All of Us campaign.
And according to NIH, and I'm going to quote this from their website here just for accuracy's sake, quote, "All of Us is a participant-engaged, data-driven enterprise supporting research at the intersection of human biology, behavior, genetics, environment, data science, computation, and much more to produce new knowledge with the goal of developing more effective ways to treat disease."
Beautifully said.
Also another
Thanks,
list.
NIH.
I'll let the list slide.
Tell me more.
So All of Us, of course, functions on a set of core values that guide the development of the research program. And these important values are that participation is open to everyone, and therefore the participants themselves have got to reflect the rich diversity of the United States for this to have the impact that it could potentially have. Also important is the fact that participants themselves are partners and not just research subjects. So there needs to be like a two-way communication between participants and their medical providers, and the participants have to have access to their medical information. Of course, security and data privacy are of high importance, and the program will be a catalyst for positive change in research.
Right now, NIH is hoping that the All of Us project will last at least 10 years and that participants will stay involved for the full period of the project. During this time, participants would be asked to go to their doctor's office for blood, urine, and saliva samples, which would then be supplied to researchers. The participants would also take surveys from time to time.
Joining is totally free and voluntary, so you can actually opt out of the study at any point. Seems to me like a pretty good way for the average citizen to participate in major scientific research and breakthroughs. So where does the All of Us program stand currently? Can people join now?
Okay, so the short answer is yes. It's happening, working on it currently. But before we go any further with this conversation, at least, I feel like we have to address the elephant in the room. As Daniela so eloquently mentioned, the PMI was established by the Obama administration, and now we're in the Trump administration. It turns out that a lot of people who study national politics and policy predicted that President Trump would do away with PMI, but that actually hasn't happened yet. As of now, it's still in place.
That's not to say, though, that the president didn't suggest decreasing medical spending. So I guess you could consider that an indirect attempt at downplaying the program.
Sure. But what ended up happening in that situation that you're referencing early in 2017, I think, was that Congress ended up doing the exact opposite. They gave agencies like the NIH a research boost for the remainder of that calendar year. Specifically, the NIH was allotted an additional $2 billion on top of their existing budget, with certain added provisions specifically dedicated to PMI.
But that doesn't mean PMI, and specifically the All of Us research program, has been problem-free.
Nothing ever is.
For instance, back in the earlier stages of All of Us beta testing around October 2017, news outlet Politico reported that while 4,000 people had, at that point, signed up for the study, around 20% of those participants did not consent to disclosing their EHRs, or electronic health records.
And EHRs are the clinical equivalent of a GPA transcript combination. They're just what they sound like, really, a record of your clinical history with contributions from all the medical providers you've had over time.
Is that such a big problem, though? I mean, presumably the patients would have consented to other aspects of the program, like the surveys and stuff.
Well, it kind of is a big problem. Missing 20% of your data set is really significant. Of 4,000 initial stage participants, that would be the equivalent of missing data from 800 people. If that 20% trend continued to the full-fledged version of the study, well, 20% of a million is 200,000.
But why didn't they disclose their EHRs?
In general, there was an overarching concern about data privacy. The team of all of us researchers wants access to every bit of a participant's medical information. And living in a world of computers, smartphones, and ubiquitous data breaches, it's really not hard to think why patients might be a little squeamish about putting it all out there, so to speak.
It's worth noting, though, that patient privacy is a major acknowledged concern of PMI. So, unsurprisingly, the powers that be have outlined a comprehensive set of safeguards that will protect patients' data and anonymity in the best ways they can.
Okay, let's hear them then.
Okay, so first of all, patient information will be stored on super special protected computers that only a limited number of people can even access. If that doesn't make you feel safe, though, all of the collected data will then be encrypted to remove patient identifiers, so information like name, date of birth, etc.
The researchers working with the data will have to have taken an ethics course and agree to an explicit code of conduct. Basically, they have to pinky promise that they're going to...
Seriously, Cleo?
Okay, so they have to strongly agree not to try to basically undo that encrypting by figuring out which patient matches with which data.
Much better.
I'm sure that the program will also have to tell participants if there's any sort of data breach, though.
Yeah, that's definitely a part of it.
Okay, but then what about legal cases? I've definitely watched an episode of How to Get Away with Murder that involved a warrant or whatever for a patient's medical info.
What are you talking about?
Don't look at me like that. I'm not a lawyer. I don't know the lingo. But anyway, the point is patient data still protected in those sorts of cases?
Actually, it is. The All of Us program has U.S. certificates of confidentiality that prevent court orders from matching a patient's identity to their data.
Court order. That is the term I was looking for. Court order.
Well, now that Danielle is up on her legal lingo. So that is all of what's going on to address patient privacy concerns. But of course, we can't be incomplete. And
because that is not our style.
Of course not. So we can't fail to mention a few other overarching concerns associated with the research program.
These include cost of implementation, dealing with the sheer volume of data collected, making sure the necessary IT infrastructure is in place, and dealing with any resistance that comes from medical professionals themselves.
And now, if all of you listeners are totally ready to be part of this research program of enormous magnitude, to become one of all of us, if you will.
I see what you did there.
Thanks. There are ways for you to get involved. Signing up for the program involves going to joinallofus.org and creating a profile.
The website seems to indicate that the program is still in beta testing because you still have to request an invitation code to be a participant right now. However, many highly reputable websites have projected that the full-fledged program will be launched in the spring of this year.
Is it spring yet?
It just keeps snowing here, so I really don't know.
So are you guys going to do it?
I might. I'll probably wait until the beta phase is over. But yeah, I might. I don't hate surveys. I do kind of hate blood tests, but I guess it's all for the science.
Yeah, taking one of these surveys sounds like a perfect way for me to procrastinate my other work, so I'm definitely going to do it. How about you, Dee?
I live in London.
Sorry.
Right. Well, okay then, Daniela. On that note, why don't you tell us a bit about how precision medicine is received over in your side of the world? Is there anything going on that's similar to PMI?
Well, I'm not sure if by my side of the world you mean the UK or the EU. People here don't really know how to define themselves after Brexit.
All right. Well, how about a bit of UK and EU? I mean, that's assuming that there are programs supporting precision medicine on your continent.
Oh, there are. I mean, a bit different than PMI, of course, but there are. So, here in the UK, the government has something called a program coordination group, active in precision medicine. This brings together representatives from 15 organizations from the UK government, funding bodies, charities, and civil society to ensure that the UK has the right environment to reap economic benefits of precision medicine.
But even with a multidisciplinary group like that, I've heard that the precision medicine landscape in the UK is pretty complex.
Oh, for sure. But attempting to simplify the landscape for stakeholders, precision medicine infrastructure is categorized here into four different classifications: by type of infrastructure, type of disease, relevance of precision medicine interventions, and finally by location within the UK.
Okay, Jane the Virgin, we get that you like your lists and your categories. Anything else?
No, that's about it for the UK. But in the EU as a whole, the move towards personalized medicine can be seen as an evolutionary rather than revolutionary process.
So we're not talking about some sort of medical system overhaul then.
Exactly. Although some personalized medicine approaches have been introduced into practice in Europe, but we're still generally at an early stage of implementation.
And there might even be a paradigm shift afoot with the EU's ICPermed program.
Yeah. So, what Aubrey's talking about here is the International Consortium for Personalized Medicine, or ICPermed, launched in November 2016. ICPermed brings together over 30 European and international representatives of research, funding, and policymaking, together with the European Commission as an observer.
All right, so how does it work? What's its purpose?
Yeah, Dee, hit us with another list.
Okay, well, you asked for it. You're in luck because actually the member organizations of ICPermed have four objectives.
I was being so sarcastic, but forgot you don't understand sarcasm.
Very true, but I'm just going to ignore that and continue with my list. So, first, to establish Europe as a global leader in personalized medicine research. Second, to support the foundation of personalized medicine science through a coordinated approach to research. Third, to provide evidence demonstrating the benefit of personalized medicine to citizens and healthcare systems. And finally, fourth, to pave the way for citizens to access personalized medicine approaches.
So basically, ICPermed plays the same role as PMI in the United States and the coordination group in the UK, but on a regional rather than national scale.
Yeah, exactly.
All right, so I guess it's good to know that precision medicine is certainly alive and kicking in places other than the United States, and that's especially promising since we've dedicated our entire afternoon to the subject. And I guess it's always a good thing to know that when you dedicate your whole afternoon to something, it's not just the avocado toast of medicine, right?
Like a fad?
Yeah, no, exactly. Anyway, we're about ready to finish up, and Cleo, don't make me regret this, but I promise do your moment, so do your thing.
Okay, well, I do apologize now because I'm about to stand on a little bit of a soapbox for a minute, so bear with me. But something I think might be beneficial for us to understand, or at least interesting to think about as we bring this conversation to a close, is the broader set of consequences about how we talk about something like precision medicine. While it's amazing and wonderful that we're discovering all kinds of connections between our bodies and the outside world, or even just connections within our own individual bodies themselves, it's important to keep in mind just how we're conceptualizing technology moving forward. While technology in this instance, in the medical world, is revolutionizing the way we perceive and thus treat our bodies, I mean, I don't know, and it seems like it's for the good. Are technological solutions the end-all be-all for all other issues that we face in the world? For example, can we instrument our way out of the effects of climate change? And what are the social or cultural implications of technological improvements that show certain bodies are more susceptible to some illnesses than others? And are there any negative consequences associated with believing we can technologically advance ourselves out of every problem we face? And I guess finally, do we have anything to gain from admitting how very little we actually understand about our own bodies, let alone the world around us?
Cleo, your liberal arts is showing.
I mean, the master's program I'm in right now has probably broken me, or maybe I was broken before. But in any case, I can't think about a single topic now and not have half an existential crisis over it.
Okay, I don't know about your graduate program, Aubrey, but I don't think mine over here in London broke me the same way.
It must be something they put in the water in Utah.
Okay, I think that's more than enough of that. So let's wrap things up so I can go find some other non-precision medicine topic to overanalyze. Today on the forum, Aubrey, Daniela, and I gave you a look at the background, motivations for, and current state of precision medicine, case studying the Precision Medicine Initiative, or PMI.
We also talked about how you could get involved with the All of Us research program if that's of interest to you. Aubrey, can we post a link to that page on our social media?
Totally. I'll do it right when we get off air.
Perfect.
All right. Well, that is all we've got for you today on the forum. And that also concludes our third virtual conference, Next Gen Med Precision Medicine. Thank you so much for tuning in to our very special live show today. And we hope you've enjoyed socializing with science. Find our new episodes, not live,
Thank God,
on SoundCloud every other Monday at 10 a.m. Eastern. And with that, we'll catch you next time right here on the forum. Bye.
Bye.
Bye, guys.